Hello, hello, hello.
Beautiful.
Recording
Oh,
started.
this is nice. We just lost it. Oh, there. Hey, Brother Rick, good morning. Listen, I learned something very important, and I have to apologize. I will never again talk to you after you get, well, I mean, I'll talk to you, but I'll call you back when you first wake up, okay?
Hey, I'm sorry.
It's Rick, it's all okay. It's all okay. It's all
Well,
good.
we're saving the day here, I see.
It's fine. How many people do you have on your screen?
Right now,
6.
5.
5, okay.
Wow. Yeah, 5.
So 5 plus you is 6.
Well, actually, no, the people that are here. No, 5 includes me, but
Okay.
there are 2, Carrie and Ted are together, and okay.
2, 3, 4,
So
5, 6.
actually,
6 altogether.
So we have 6. Okay, that's
7
fine.
including
6,
you.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
I'm
13,
here,
14.
you know.
Okay. So I just like to have an idea of
I see if my volume's turned all the way up. Didn't sound like it.
I think the volume's good.
On the laptop and you change it.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you're fine.
Fine.
Okay, beautiful.
So that 6 included you, Reverend Ron.
Oh,
That's
that was
true.
including me. All right, so I
Well,
said
that's-
14,
yeah.
so we're down. Perfect. 13 is one of my lucky numbers.
Oh,
Do you know why?
no.
Because Jesus and his 12 made 13. And everybody thinks it's an unlucky number. And I always think, in fact, when I play poker, and this is just one of the fun things I do, this is like penny ante poker, nickel, it's like nickel dime poker, whatever it is. I throw in 13 and people fold.
Oh, wow. Good to know.
They're not going against 13. It's like, wow. But after
That's
a while, they're on
hilarious.
to me, and then they start calling me. But it's all good. Okay, so today is the 8th, right?
Yeah.
10, 8, 20. Okay, beautiful.
Okay, 6 on Zoom, just to be clear.
Okay, 6 on Zoom. Thank you.
And you can do the rest of the math.
I got it. I counted twice, and it came up 13 both times.
Yeah.
So I'm not as unreliable as the state of Florida. Do you guys remember that presidential election?
Yes.
3 different counts, and it was 3 different totals. I couldn't believe it. I thought, this has got to be a joke. Let's not go there. Okay.
Oh.
So anyway, the question was asked for those of you that are in our Zoom thing. Well, welcome everybody to our Thursday Bible Metaphysics class. And I'm going to do a generic just blessing that we just did a blessing for everybody here. So I'm just going to hold a blessing for all of us that are gathered, whether we're on Zoom or we're at the church. So blessings. And the only announcement I really want to make is Chris is going to put this out in tomorrow's e-blast. We are not going to have a Wednesday meditation at the church for the next couple of Wednesdays. Because I'll be gone. And so we're just going to have our regular Zoom Wednesday morning meditation at 10 o'clock. Okay, that was good. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? Now, you had your hand up.
Oh, I was wasting time.
Okay,
I totally had a meditation today a live meditation thing on the internet. But he started talking about one of Jesus's stories, the ones about where the house was built on the rock versus the house being built on sand, and then he did a metaphysical interpretation of that. And I just thought I'd just throw it out in there, but it was kind of synchronistic.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Leslie was sharing about an experience she had today about one of the stories that Jesus shared about a house being built on stone instead of versus a house being built on sand. Okay, so is there any other questions or
Yes.
any other comments? Yes, go ahead.
Your mask is dangling from your ear. It would look
Yeah.
better on the video if it were off.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Well, it's going to be harder to hear me on a mask, especially for the folks that are on Zoom. So this is fine. And I already asked everybody here, and they said it was okay for me to have my mask. Well, I had it half off, but Should have taken it off all the way. Okay, so basically, I was just starting to say about Genesis is really written in the form of allegory, and it is full of symbols, and how the ancient Hebrews were steeped in symbolism. Names reflected the nature of the thing or the person named. For example, Peter represented our faculty of faith. Andrew represents our faculty of strength. Places represented states of consciousness. They could be lofty or lowly or degenerative. And I shared the story of this Lot's wife, which included the consciousness of Sodom and the consciousness of Gomorrah, which were both degenerative states of consciousness. Males represent our thinking faculty. Women represent our feeling nature metaphysically. Persons with a specific name, the name represents the nature of the person. For example, Jacob represents the subplanner. Remember, he stole his brother's heritage. And Esau, when he was born, he was very hairy and earthy, and so Esau literally meant hairy and earthly. Name change is a change in consciousness. Saul, who was a great persecutor of Christians, had his blinding experience on the way to Damascus, and he became an unceasing voice for Jesus in Jesus's way. Symbols can have more than one meaning. They could have a higher or a lower meaning, or they can have more than one meaning. The Garden of Eden, the serpent was a lowly creature, but in the New Testament, Jesus said, "Be wise as serpents." So the story context tells us what the meaning represents. And then the most important piece of this overview is that all people, all places, and all characters in the Bible represent a different aspect of who?
Okay.
That's it. It represents ourselves. So that's the most important thing. Okay, somebody commented Sunday that they thought I would be covering more about Genesis in this thing. So we're gonna go into Genesis 1. Genesis 1 basically is if you notice, Genesis 1 is a creation story, and Genesis 2 is a creation story. So do we have two creations? The answer is yes. Genesis 1 is all about setting up the spiritual energy of creation, and Genesis 2 is actually the manifestation. So basically, in Genesis 1, it reads, Genesis 1:1 is, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." So the first command that came right after that is Genesis 1:3. Is everybody familiar with the signatures in Scripture? How to read what that says? Okay, so if it says like Genesis 1:3, you know what that means?
Chapter 1, verse 3.
Chapter 1, verse 3.
And you said you didn't know Bible. That's why I asked you. Okay, yeah. See, when I got into uni, I didn't even know what that meant. That's how clueless I was.
You never know when people talk.
Yeah, because I came out. I did 12 years of Catholic school, and we just used a catechism, so I didn't know how to even read a script. What the scripture thing meant.
Yeah.
It was always alien to me. Okay, so anyway, the first command in Genesis 1:3 is, "Let there be light." So what do you suppose light represents in that? Metaphysically, what do you think light means? Enlightenment, okay. Okay. Spirit, did you say? Spirit, okay. Basically, anything along the idea of light would be illumination, wisdom. That's kind of what the metaphysics of light is, although it could have other meanings too. Another thing that I probably want you to be aware of, there are some generally accepted ideas of what some of the stories mean. However, the story could mean something different for you It could mean something different for you. It could mean something different for you, because our life's journey has us having different experiences, and some experience that we may have had might plug into this metaphysical story differently. And that's valid. It's all valid. If it comes through you, it's inspired by spirit, so it's all valid. So there's more than one way to interpret any story, and your way may be unique, and that's fine. That's what your God-given wisdom is all about, okay? So nothing is just one way only. It's all, the stuff I'm giving you are generally accepted things for people that have studied metaphysics for a while. Okay, so the second command in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6, that would look like Genesis 1:6, it says, let there be firmament in the midst of the waters. Okay, so what do you suppose the waters might represent?
Storms?
A storm. Okay, let there be firmament in the midst of a storm. That's good.
Could be life.
Life. That's good.
That's
Water does represent life. That is one of the metaphysical interpretations of water. Yes. Cleansing. Yes, always.
Safe harbor.
Safe harbor. Okay. Well, waters. Now this I'm going to give you from Charles Fillmore in his book. I don't know if you. Charles Fillmore is hard to read if you're in Unity, you want a couple of years. He's probably one of the hardest authors to read, because he was writing back in the 1920s and 30s, and he was using the language from that time. So he's a little bit more complicated, but his books are absolutely awesome. And I shared with you before, he is literally an American mystic. And he's one of that. I don't know if I told you guys this. I told you one of my in my opinion, one of the greatest metaphysicians of the 20th century is my guru, Eric Butterworth. The other one is Charles Fillmore. If you look at that MBD, he wrote that thing. I think it was published in 1931. He spent hundreds and hundreds of hours in meditation. Of course, once his wife went from having 6 months to live to being in perfect radiant health for the next 40 years of her life, Charles got right on the bandwagon. I don't want to say it that way, but I jokingly kid about Myrtle being actually the founder of Unity. But it was actually Charles and Myrtle, because Charles's contribution was just as important as Myrtle's, although she was the catalyst to get the ball rolling. So anyway, Charles wrote that MBD, but here's what Charles said on page 17 in his book, Mysteries of Genesis, that waters are the unexpressed possibilities in mind. So Charles, remember, Genesis is all about the spiritual foundation for everything. And so a lot of this stuff has to do with our thoughts and our mind and how we perceive things. Okay, here's the next thing: is each day of creation. Now I'm giving you a quote. There was evening and there was morning, and this is coming from Genesis chapter 1, verse 5. So metaphysically, what do you think evening might mean or represent? Evening. What goes on in the evening? What's our body about, and what's the day about?
Regeneration.
Rest. Okay, it's kind of metaphysically, evening represents the end of the day, the completion. Everything is done. Okay. Now morning, there was an evening and there was morning, and so the morning represents new activity, new ideas. Okay, so it's very good. The metaphysical teaching is this: only when one step is attained are we able to go forward to the next step. We cannot take all steps at once. And this is why we could get into New Thought, which Unity is a New Thought church, and understand this divine presence is within us, do some affirmations, and all of a sudden we understand and know everything. It doesn't work like that. It's one day at a time. We have to complete step 1 before we could take step 2. And so we cannot take all the steps at once and should be content to progress in an orderly, harmonious fashion. The 6 days are different periods of development. They're different degrees of awakening and living our divinity. This is one of the themes. I don't know if you guys are aware. That's one of the things I continuously try to inspire people to jump into that level, to live from a higher level of divinity. And all I ask you to do is take one step outside of your comfort zone, whatever it is now. Just take one step. Is that moving to a higher consciousness? One step? Absolutely. So,
Did you repeat what you said about the 6 days? I'm sorry.
okay, yeah, 6 days that represents periods of development
Okay.
or degrees of awakening to living our divinity. Now, I want you to know I've updated a lot of what Charles is saying. He doesn't use the terminology I'm using, but it's much more clear and understandable in 2020, the way I say it. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Maybe Charles is, is good for nowadays too. Well, no, he's great for nowadays. Don't get me wrong. So anyway, it's just periods of development. Okay, we have a third command coming from Genesis chapter 1. Now this is verses 9 through 11. Let the waters be gathered together unto one place, and let dry land appear. Okay, I'm going to read Charles Fillmore. Again, this is from Mysteries of Genesis on page 18. The third step, which are the third command, the third step in creation is the beginning of the formative activity of the mind called imagination. Our imagination gathers the waters together in one place so that dry land appears. Then the imagination begins a great multiplication of forms and shapes in the mind. So what does that mean? What did Charles, what was he saying in that?
Well, it sounds to me like, you have the thoughts and then you draw the energy towards you and then you create what it is you're thinking about.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. And this is really important. This is Genesis chapter 1, verses 7, which is a precursor to what I just read. When the formative power of mind, imagination, is used rightly, it, this is my word, quote, sees the perfection of God. As the sick, lame, and blind came to Jesus, he imagined the wholeness of spirit, and it was so. Think of the miracle, the healings that he accomplished.
Sure.
He basically, do you suppose he saw the illness, or do you suppose he saw the wholeness of God? He always saw the wholeness of God. So our imagination is so powerful, and this, I wrote this at the bottom. Imagination is often one of our misused spiritual faculties, our mind faculties. Why? Why do you suppose imagination is sometimes one of our big misused spiritual faculties or our mind faculties?
Well, because you're called a daydreamer. You sit around and use your imagination all the time and not pay attention to what's going on, like in school and stuff.
Okay, daydreaming. I don't know that that's so bad, actually, the daydreaming.
No, I mean,
Right, you're saying it's good, but you're called to task.
Well, a lot of people, myself included, at one time, spent all of my time worrying about what wasn't yet, or being sick about what had happened, rather than being in the moment.
I think you want to mute yours because they're gonna get the echo.
I muted this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised how well.
Actually, it's funny.
What about you? That's just me. Lucinda.
We've lost audio.
Lucinda, you have two devices and you have feedback that's you need to deal with. But we don't have any audio at this point. Can you unmute your laptop? Okay. Thank you.
We're back in the tech business. Okay. The story of Job. Job is a man who has great wealth. You gotta shut that volume. Okay, great. Job is a man who has great wealth, wonderful family, has properties, cattle, the whole 9 yards. And Satan says to God, oh, God's bragging on Job. Look at my man Job. He's such a good man. And Satan says, oh, sure, he's got everything in the world. Of course he's a good man. Let's take some stuff away and see how he is. God says, okay, you could take some stuff away, but don't harm him. And so Satan stirs some energies around, and Job starts losing some of his wealth. And Job stays faithful to God even when he's losing this stuff. And so God's bragging on Job again. He says, "Oh yeah, look at my man Job. He's good. He's honors me and just loves me and da da da." And Satan says, "Oh yeah, sure. He still has a lot more than most men." He says, let's take some more stuff. Let me take his family away from him. Let me take his home away. So over time, Job loses everything, but he still remains faithful to God. But he's losing everything, and he's still remaining faithful to God. And so Satan says, well, how about if we do a little bit more against Job? Let's see how faithful he is when he's really challenged. So basically, God says, okay, but don't hurt Job. And so basically, Job lost everything: his home, his family, his wife, children, his cattle, all of his possessions, and he's still remaining faithful to God. And so basically, to make a long story a little shorter, God blesses him with even more abundance than he had previously. And so the very end of the story is the insight as to what really happened. And a lot of people miss this. One of the last things that Job says is, that which I feared most came upon me. And that was the whole thing. In his consciousness, he was afraid he was going to lose everything. Now, what do you think is going to happen if you're using your imagination that you're going to be losing everything? That's one of your fears that you've been holding for years, maybe. What do you think is going to happen? That's how powerful our imagination is. Myrtle Fillmore became sickly and weakly with tuberculosis. Well, no, she was sickly and weakly her whole life. But when she turned 41, I think it was, she was diagnosed to have terminal illness. She was going to live 6 months. She was actually dying of tuberculosis, and she also had pneumonia too. So bottom line is, she was getting taken out. Now, let me share something. Growing up, because she was bedridden missed a lot of school, her family was calling her sick and weak and just, da, da, da. And so this is the program that she's hearing continuously. And I can't remember if it was I think it was her father's side, relatives in her father's side of the heritage had several family members die of tuberculosis at 40, 41-ish. And so this seed has been planted in Myrtle throughout her whole life. So guess what happens at 40? Do you think she was a little bit, now she's sickly and weakly. Do you think she might have carried a little bit of fear about the tuberculosis and dying at 40, 41? Do you think that might have been part of her consciousness? That is exactly what you're hitting. That is the improper use of imagination. When we put our energy into the universe, whether it's good or bad, the universe is going to say yes, and that's going to come back to us. And the interesting thing, there was so many articles and stories I read. There was one wisdom saying that went something like this: if you think you can't, you can't. If you think you can, you will. And so it just reiterated that it's what we believe for ourselves and how we're using our imagination, that's going to make all the difference in the world, what our life's journey is about. There's a story about this couple was traveling to another town, and as they're walking to this town, they see this kind of a sage type guy, and he says, "What kind of people are in that town?" And he says, "Well, let me ask you this, what kind of people were in the town that you came from?" And the guy says, "Oh, they were miserable people, bitter, backbiting, and they'll do you in and all this stuff." And the sage shakes his head and he says, "Alas, I'm afraid you're going to find the same kind of people in this town." So they bypass the town and keep going on their way. Well, he's still sitting there, and another couple comes by, and they say, "What kind of people are in this town? What kind of a town is it?" And he says, "What kind of a town were the people that you came from?" He says, "Oh, they were wonderful people, good friends, always willing to give you a helping hand. It was just great, great town, great people." And he smiles and shakes his head. He says, "I think you're going to like this town. The people in this town are very much like that, the people from your previous town." Same town. So our imagination has so much power. In fact, there's an exercise that if you are capable of doing this, would you guys like to have a firsthand experience of the power of imagination? All right, I'm going to invite everybody to stand up. Warren, you can just relax and stay in your seat, sir. Okay. Now have enough space between you where you won't be touching when you extend your arms. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. Put your arms out in front of you. About shoulder length apart. Now I want you to very gently turn to the right as far as you can, bending it just at your waist, keeping your arms and your shoulders in kind of a locked position. Turn to the right as far as you can. Now mark where your arms end. Okay, but just take a look a little bit beyond your arms to the right. Now come back to center. Okay. Now we're going to do the same rotation, but this time we're going to go to the left and mark where you could go, comfortably go, or push a little bit here. Okay. Mark the spot. Now come on back to center. Put your arms down. Close your eyes. Imagine you are raising your arms back to the shoulder length distance. Imagine you are turning to the right. You get to the place where you were before, but now you go beyond that place a little bit, and you have a new place to mark. Now you bring your arms back in front and just, again, raise your arms again in your imagination. We're just doing an imagination exercise for a minute. Now gently turn to the right again to pass the first mark, pass the second mark, give yourself a new mark at wherever your arms land. Then slowly imagine coming back to center. Taking a breath. And now let's rotate to the right. One more time in our imagination only. We're going to the right, passing our first mark, passing our second mark, passing to a third mark. And now we come back to center. Let me just relax for a moment. Now we move to the left, all the way to the left in our imagination. Pass our first mark, go to a second mark. Oh, nice. Now we come back to center. Take a breath. Now we rotate to the left again in our imagination. Passing our first mark. Passing our second mark to our third mark. And now we come back to center. Take another breath. And now we rotate to the left one last time, going past our first mark, past our second mark, past our third mark. Woo! Coming back to center, and then just bringing our arms back down, taking a breath. Now I invite us all to open our eyes. Raise your hands, shoulder length apart. Very gently, let's turn to the right as far as you can go. And now come back to center. And now let's go to the left as far as you can go.
I'll keep my arms up.
Now come back to center. Some of us are laughing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what was the experience? Wow. Wow, everybody's shaking their heads. Okay, anybody want to share? You got to a third mark. Okay.
I lost
Way
power.
past where you were. How about you guys online? Did you guys do that?
Significantly
You
further.
have to depress your space bar so we could hear you. Any
Significantly
experiences you guys
further.
want to share?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Significantly further.
Significantly further.
Both times, yeah.
Both times, both directions. I love it. How
I
about
got,
you guys?
I got to my third mark and I didn't think I could go that far.
You went past your third mark
Yeah, and I didn't think I could go that far.
and you didn't think you could go that far. Isn't the
No.
imagination amazing?
Actually, I think my body was pretty amazing that it went that far.
Okay, so she thought her body was pretty amazing that it went past her third mark. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Any of you folks want to share anything? Surprising. I'm gonna tell you a true. Go ahead. Mhm. So what was different? Our imagination created the path. Yes, I'm going to share. This is a true story. Rick, you may know this. I don't know. Well, I seek this stuff out. There was an officer that was captured, and he was in a prisoner of war camp in Vietnam for a couple of years. And basically, he decided he was an avid golfer before. He decided he was going to go through an entire game of golf every day, every hole without fail. And he, just did his perfect swing and went on. So anyway, he was captured for a couple of years, hadn't picked up a golf club. When he finally was released several years later, the first time he went on a golf course, he cut something like 7 or 8 strokes off of his game from the last one he used to play. 7 or 8 strokes. It was like phenomenal. His colleagues couldn't believe it. And then he shared with them, basically he played a game of golf every day in his mind, using his imagination, and his imagination did that. I actually had created a program, I studied a program, I fine-tuned it, and it was called, has anybody ever heard of autogenic conditioning? Okay, basically it's an imagination use of whatever sport you're in, And basically, I presented an entire program to the football coach at the University of Florida, Galen Hall. I did this in 1980 something. And Galen actually knew he wanted to take that level to our team. So he had it down to me and a psychologist. He interviewed about 6 people. It was down to me and the psychologist. And what happened was, I ended up getting divorced and going to ministerial school, so I left Gainesville. And then Galen ended up getting terminated. His contract got terminated shortly after that, and I don't know the reason behind that. But basically, I was really excited about that. But it was all using your mind. And what my idea was, I would work with each individual group, like the receivers would be one group, the quarterbacks would be one group, and have them play in their mind the perfect pass, the perfect reception, the most the amazing reception that most people couldn't possibly do. They would imagine all of this stuff, and in a game, guess what would happen? If we ever put that program in place, guess what would have happened? They would have done exactly what they imagined, because they would have been programmed. Yeah, this was back in the 1980s. Nobody was using it except, and here's how I found out about it. I was looking at the medals, gold medals. East Germany is about the size of New Jersey. And they were like 3rd or 4th in the world in all these medals. And all these countries are like 100 times bigger. I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And I did some research and found out they didn't use autogenic conditioning. That's an American name. But basically, they were using autogenic conditioning. So I got really excited about that. And I put together a program and presented it to the University of Florida. Of course, I didn't want to do it with anybody else. And so I never offered it with anybody else. But I would have did it for Florida. That's the school I graduated from. So anyway, our imagination is so powerful. And like I said, it is often a misused spiritual faculty or a mind faculty, because exactly what you said, we allow regrets to flavor our energy. Then we have fear. Oh my gosh, they're downsizing in my company. So that gets bigger and bigger every day. So what happened with Job? That which I feared most. He had everything in the world, but that which I feared most came upon me. He's continuously putting this fear energy into the universe. What do you think the universe is saying all this time? What do you think is the universe saying? It's saying yes. It's saying yes. So you keep putting that energy into the universe, and guess what? Look what happened to our energy. We decided we were going to pass our first mark, our second mark, our third mark. Folks, that's how powerful our imagination is. We could use it to help us move forward, or we could misuse it to help us move backwards in our life's journey. But it's at our fingertips. Yes, dear. The Blue Angels use it. I didn't know that. Wow. Okay. That is very powerful. I'm going to share this online. Could you guys hear what you just said?
No.
The angels use their imagination for their formations. They fly very tight formations at like 300 and 400 miles an hour. I mean, would be lethal for anybody who wasn't highly trained.
Yeah.
And they use this every day to envision their formation. Isn't that awesome stuff? Yes, dear. Mm-hmm.
Makes up for all that negative. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying, and there's no way that can happen.
No.
It could start making a difference in your total energy output, but it can't obliterate bad programming that you may have had for decades inside of you. And the proof of that is this, and I've actually, and this is part of how I designed part of my workshop. There have been many people who've taken like a prosperity workshop, and they do everything they learn in the prosperity workshop, use the affirmations, and nothing changes in their life. Why? And the reason is they have some insidious bad programming, which I call garbage, in their subconscious. And because they don't take that out, the other affirmation, the lip service, can't thrive. Because your belief system is not what the lip service is, it's your belief system. So now it will make a difference, don't get me wrong. And so moving in that direction is helpful. But if you really want to change your behavior quickly, take out the garbage from your subconscious and you'll see a profound difference quickly in your life. Yes, yes. Well, you're going to have the opportunity next month, probably. Yes, dear.
I'd like to go past everything. Because he didn't realize he was sending out with
That's correct.
his fear. He didn't recognize his own fear. And so,
Well, even if you recognize it, he didn't know that there was going to be a consequence.
but even if you know, sometimes are under
Oh, I see what you're
fear.
saying. Yeah, it was just kind of like almost a subconscious fear.
It was a,
Okay.
because he loved the Lord,
Mhm.
had all this wonderful stuff, wife, children, aren't I lucky?
Mhm.
But underneath it, that's why affirmations, what's underneath it?
Mhm.
And that's what you have to try to get rid of. And how do you do that when you don't recognize it?
Well, I think Mother Fillmore did when she cut the tape of all the negative info that she'd been getting all those years.
Yes.
You're sick, you're weak, you're not healthy.
Mhm.
And then she was able to put in the positive
Yes.
affirmations and become one.
Mhm.
But she had to cut that tape first and get rid of that garbage.
Yes, absolutely. And Lori, this is actually the solution that you brought up, the example you brought up. If you do any kind of a basic forgiveness thing, a release of negative stuff inside of you, that will accelerate. Now you're using the positive affirmation because now you're taking out what has been holding you back. See, it's what happens is this is a really interesting thing. I started to realize that when we have challenges in life, it's not God doing it to us. What it amounts to is if we have a particular area that we seem to be challenged time after time after time, it has nothing to do with God. It has to do with Ron Palumbo, because whatever energy I am sending out that has a less than high watch area, which means I have some garbage. I'm sending that out so life, to help me to wake up to a higher truth, is gonna, whatever that garbage is gonna be presented in my life. Let's say I'm challenged with patience. Okay, I'm gonna keep getting opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to step into a higher level of patience. And if I don't get it, if I try the location fix or I move to another city to get rid of all the stuff that's holding up, within 60 to 90 days, I will have replicated that exact thing in the new city, because it's my consciousness that's bringing it to me. Not to hurt me, Lori, not to hurt me, to help me grow through this shortcoming. We are here to wake up to our divinity and to live from that level of consciousness. And if we're not there, our consciousness will attract to us the shortcomings that we're holding in consciousness, whatever those shortcomings are. Because whatever we're putting into the universe is going to say what? What? What does the universe say? Okay, I see you mouthing yes, that counts.
Yeah,
Thumbs up
the
from
universe
Sandy.
says, I'll deliver.
That's right. I love that. That's perfect. And she said, whatever I say it again.
Whatever you're asking for, the universe says, I will deliver.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. I love it. Beautiful. Beautiful. So that's really very important to know that, and that is one of our big spiritual faculties that's misused. Guess what my all-time biggest one is? You guys better know this one. Here come the judge. Here come the judge. Order in the court comes. Here come the, remember that lesson? Here come the judge. We misuse our judgment faculty. Now, this is my opinion. I could be wrong. We might be, our imagination might be the worst misuse. We misuse our judgment faculty every time we look at anybody and start judging, and we almost always attach condemning to that. That is, to me, that's the loudest one. That is just so blatant and so obvious in everything we're doing.
Yeah,
So obvious.
yes.
Yes. Warren just said yes, so that makes it official.
Amen.
We're right on task here. I love it. This is good. Okay, any questions on the imagination or the judgment stuff or anything that we've just experienced or anything?
Mm-mm. I've enjoyed it very much. It's a new concept.
Good.
For me. What'd she say?
Honestly, she said she enjoys your comments.
Well, good. They're far and few, aren't they?
Awesome stuff, Warren. Awesome stuff.
I'm trying to learn to think before I speak. That's one of my things.
You're doing a great job, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Working
Yes, sir.
on it.
Yes. Yes, sir. We're all working on it. That's the good news. That's all the good news. Okay, so we have any questions on any of those Genesis commands that we went through?
No.
We're good. Okay, Warren, you could mute again if you want to, sir, unless you're going to say something else. Yes.
No, I'm not going to say anything. All of us are muting.
No, you are muting. I'm staying live. And that,
Oh, well,
that
I'm
way, in
glad-
case your phone,
I'm glad you're staying
Okay.
live. I'm on my tablet and
okay, no, that's fine. Because sometimes when we start getting some background noises, it kind of messes up our sound thing. I don't see a battery anywhere. Oh yeah, it'll probably tell me, right? Yeah, okay. So far I don't see any low battery message. Okay. Okay, so anything else on anything that we talked about or shared or anything like that? We're good? All right, so let's go to the fourth command, which is Genesis 1:14. First chapter, verse 14. Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night. And metaphysically, the two lights represent our faculties of understanding and will. And they should function together. This is important. They have to function together. Understanding by itself is of little value unless it's supported by will. And will is a power for good only when it is grounded in understanding. There's a lot of willful people we come across that don't understand the big picture of life, and they are kind of in a different consciousness. You know, they could be very willful. So the bottom line, they have to be there. And anyway, God, at the end of Genesis 1, the spiritual creation of everything and the mind stuff, God called everything very good, not just good, but very good. And that's very important. So Genesis 1 is the spiritual creation of the universe and of humankind. And Genesis 2 is the creation of the physical universe and humankind. Now, somebody on Sunday asked me to go, specifically requested me to go over this particular piece, that when God gave humankind dominion over everything, the birds of the air, the cattle of the land, the fish of the deep. And the reason this is so important is because some people don't see us having dominion, and they don't understand that the dominion is over our personal energy. That's what our dominion is. We have dominion over our own personal energy. And that makes all the difference in the world, as you saw, just doing that little imagination exercise that I like to share with people. So we have tremendous power beyond what we think we have. And that's by using our thoughts and our words wisely. And so that's very important. But anyway, the dominion that we have, the fish of the deep represent our deep thoughts, our subconscious mind. We have the ability to control even the stuff in our subconscious mind, if we take that responsibility on. And Lori, what I had said to you earlier is just doing any kind of a basic forgiveness or release stuff that is contrary to the affirmation that you want to say. If you take out all the energy that is opposed to that, then basically you'll see tremendous progress happen very fast once you have the opposition gone. There was a pogo cartoon that I used to have on my office wall many decades ago. It was, and this guy's reporting to the king, and he says, the first panel says, "We have met the enemy." And then the next panel says, "And it is us." We are our own worst enemy because we have such garbage inside of us. So basically, okay, so the fish of the deep represent our subconscious stuff, the stuff that's in our subconscious. The cattle of the land, we're all such creatures of habit. And today I had a perfect experience of this. I have very heavily reinforced routines that work for me. I have some really good systems so I get things done effectively and efficiently. Here I am in a new state. Here I am in a new environment. And so I took something out of my pocket and I laid it on my dresser because I was gonna wash my slacks. And so anyway, make a long story short, I take my slacks out of the washer, put them in the dryer, and I realized my wallet is up there, but I have keys for the church, and they were in this pocket. And I thought, oh my gosh, where are my keys? So I actually called Chris and said, "Chris, I lost my key." I went through the washing machine literally 5 times. I spun the thing and felt around and did all the ribs, did everything. The keys disappeared. Now I have a little bit of a science background, a little bit of science knowledge. I know that's impossible, but I couldn't find these keys. So I walked from the bedroom to the laundry room back and forth a couple times. So finally, I just called Chris. I said, "Chris, I don't know how they disappeared. The church keys are gone. That's the key to the church, to my office and her office." I was like, "I don't know what happened." So I said, "I hope you have duplicates." She said, she kind of groaned a little bit. Anyway, make a long story short, I could not accept the keys disappearing though. So I did this 6 times. I went through the entire washing machine and my slacks are still in the dryer. Oh, and I checked out that they weren't in the pocket. The keys were not in the pocket. I was like devastated. She just gave them to me earlier this week, right? So anyway, I saw there was a rubber washer around. It was a front-loading washing machine, so it spins like this. So there was this huge rubber thing about 2 or 3 inches, and I noticed there was like a knife slit through the thing, and I thought, could the keys have fallen? So I pulled the thing back, and sure enough, my keys were sitting in some real gooky-looking water, and so I called Lori back, not Lori, I'm sorry, I called Chris back and I said, "Chris, I found my keys." I said, "They didn't disappear." I was so upset that I couldn't find them. It was like, how do keys disappear? I checked everything. So anyway, it was like, but what happened was I was not in my normal habit pattern. I took my wallet out of my pocket, which means I didn't check my pockets properly because I was doing something else. And when my wallet was on the desk, that's usually the sign that I've already emptied my pockets in my home in Illinois. So that was just part of it. And then I had 2 kind of like napkins in my back pocket, and those both got shredded. So I had junk in my back pocket. I was like, oh man. So our habit patterns, we are creatures of habit. And then the last part, let's see, the cattle of the land. That's our habit patterns. Yes. Well, we've covered it all. Oh, the birds of the air. That's our fleeting thoughts and our thoughts that rise upward. So basically that's what that is all about. I had, I have always liked this because people don't understand the dominion. We don't understand, us humans don't understand how much authority we have over our energy. So they see dominion as something else. But we have such amazing authority over our energy. And like that little imagination game that we just did. Most people would be, well, you guys had the same response everybody has. They're like, wow. It's like, yeah, it's amazing. But that's how empowered we are. We are very, very empowered beings. And we're just in the last 50 years are starting to scratch the surface on that. And Unity is a big help. I have studied pretty much all of the major faith paths. And without a doubt, in my opinion, Unity is the most empowering faith path of all the faith paths that are out there. Now, there's several that are very, very beautiful, and I'm very taken with several of them. But Unity takes us to a very high level of empowerment, and that's why I'm a Unity minister, I guess. Okay, what kind of questions and feedback you guys have? If you guys have anything on the line, please jump in.
I think I just wanted to acknowledge all your changing that you're going through, Ron, that because of the move and a new place, a new job, a new place, all these new people to get used to, this isn't going to be the last time you probably lose a set of keys or something else. Because that's normal, that when you have such a big change. So be really conscious, time to practice your consciousness.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and I'm gonna share with you. I do not subscribe to what you said. That will be the last time that I'm gonna lose my keys, the first and last, and I'm not gonna lose those keys again because I'm gonna be more conscious with everything I do because I had this experience.
Right.
So, but thank you. I understand what you were saying. But
yes. Yes,
our words are important too.
Absolutely.
Carrie.
We spend
Is it
so
Carrie,
much.
Kerry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We spend a lot of time unconscious when we have good habits and we're following them all the time. So we don't actually have to think anymore because they're just ingrained in our routine. But when there's a big change like moving or whatever else, it forces us to be more conscious in that moment because we don't have the routines in that place. That's all I'm saying.
You are absolutely right. Yes. Yeah. And everything is upside down in one respect for everything going on out here. So basically the only thing that we can do, what I do is I get as centered as I can. I do a lot of prayer and meditation. That really makes a big difference too. Mm-hmm. Today was an interesting experience, and that will cause me to be more conscious anytime I'm going to do anything like that in the future. Yeah, I make an immediate change. Yeah. Change your behavior. Good stuff.
Now, my husband loses things all the time, and he blames God. I hear him rant and rave. I said, God doesn't have anything to do with you losing your keys. But he continually does it. He was raised Catholic all the way through college. And yeah.
Yes.
So there's a couple of things about lost things. I used to work with aging on long-term care. I went to this memory conference. One of the things that the trainer taught us is when you put something down, say where you put it. Oh. And then you hope somebody heard you.
Well, actually, saying it really kind of reinforces the memory throughout your whole body, so that helps too. Yeah, that's a very powerful technique.
The other thing that works for me, you were raised Catholic.
That's true. Yes.
Lost something.
Yes.
I was not raised Catholic, but my Catholic friend taught me this before. Tony, stick around. Something's lost, but it must be found.
Oh, I like that. Is there more? I love that. That's beautiful. Tony, stick around. Something's lost and must be found. Nice. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, does anybody have any other things they would like to share or ask or?
I thought it was a great class tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
And I actually thought it was a great class too, so thank you all of you. Thank you all.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, dear.
I have these books sitting here I bought. How do you use them? What are they for?
Okay, basically, what I had said is if you're going to get into studying the Bible, those are two books that are absolutely necessary. So have you picked out any Bible passages that speak to you yet? Have you opened up a Bible?
No, I came to learn how to use it.
Okay, basically what it amounts to is, and here's how you'd use it. If you're reading a Bible passage and there's words in there that you don't know what they mean, if they're proper nouns, go to the MBD, the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, and look it up, and it'll tell you the word, how to pronounce it. It'll tell you a little bit about what's going on in the scripture verse. Then it'll give you the metaphysical interpretation of what's going on. And then there's the fourth thing too. I can't remember what the fourth thing is. Yeah, but anyway, so it'll really help. Now, when you're reading other parts, and it's like, if say you read the birth of Jesus and they bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Well, if you go to the revealing word, all of those are listed in there, and it'll tell you what the metaphysics of those words are. So but they're separate. So you have to look up gold separately, frankincense separately, and yeah. So yeah, so that really helps you. And then if you're going to get a Bible, the one that I would recommend is called the NRSV, the New Revised Standard Version. And the reason for that is the latest and the greatest that's put together by many scholars, including rabbis. And basically, I can't remember how many did this, but it was a very large number of them. And it has inclusive language. And I think I shared with you, well, some of you heard this. I don't know if you all, probably not all of you have, but I had a pretty surprising experience in ministerial school when one of my female classmates, we were talking about something in the Bible, and it was something about mankind. And she just said, I have never felt like that was talking about me when they had mankind. Does any ladies here have had that experience? Okay, so we had two. Okay, so well, see that's what I thought all ladies would consider. It's mankind as the whole human race. Well, okay, now my class was one of the few classes that was evenly divided, 18 males, 18 females. So I stood up and I said, how many women in here feel not included when you see the word mankind? I was shocked. These are future union ministers. Half of my female classmates raised their hand. Half. I'm thinking, oh my God, how could this be? It's like, wow. So I made a conscious decision at that moment, as soon as I saw the response,
Humankind.
I said, I'm never going to use mankind again. So I do my very best to use, in fact, I even changed Charles Fillmore's quotes. I used humankind. It's like, yeah, I don't use mankind anymore because some lady might not think it's talking about her. So we want to know that, you know, it's all about all of us. So let's be inclusive with everything, Yes. Oh gosh, I'll tell you what. I'm in Genesis. There's a couple of parts of Genesis. There's the flood story. There's the Tower of Babel story. Then there's the Jacob, who basically, and this is really good because his brothers really didn't like him because he used his imagination, but he didn't have wisdom to not say things that they were going to be upset with him about. But he is actually the person that we identify with our spiritual faculty of imagination. We also have a disciple that is used. I want to say Bartholomew, but I haven't looked up the 12 apostles and their spiritual faculties in a while. But anyway, so it'll still be part of Genesis. Okay. The flood story. Knowing the flood story. Now, let me ask, just out of curiosity, and I'm asking all of you too. How many people think the Noah story, the flood story actually happened? I'm just curious. 2,
I don't know.
3.
There was a flood, but I think it was stories and those lessons.
Okay, that's a good point.
The story comes up.
And actually it comes out of Babylon. The Babylonians had a flood story. Several of the different faith paths, the Muslims have a virgin birth story, and I don't know if the Babylonians do, but there's a couple of faith paths that have the virgin birth story. I was just curious. There's no right or wrong answer. Whatever floats your boat is fine. It's it's all good. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and are we ready to call? It's wow. Okay. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just take a moment. Let's just take a moment and acknowledge that Spirit is guiding and blessing our journey of awakening to this divinity at higher and higher levels. So thank you, God, for your loving presence, guiding and blessing all of us on this amazing life journey. And how about if we all close our prayer of protection, and I'll be directing energy to our Zoom people as well as to us. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, God. And so it is.